Yeah. All right. We live. All right, fellas. Welcome to another episode here to In Spaces. Chris Connor. I got a hell of a cast, man. That took time out of their busy schedules. First time talking OG Rod Walker, long time media member in New Orleans, doing Saints and Pelicans. And first off, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, Will, I wore the Kobe shirt just for you, man. It's his birthday today, and
I appreciate that.
Let me stand up so you can say it a little bit.
Happy, man. It is Mama's birthday, man. We definitely couldn't end or start the show without showing love to that, man. Let's see the shirt, right? I can't see it, man. Let me see. Dope.
And he got the Kobe in the background too. I don't know if y'all peeped. He got the
he placed that on purpose. Okay. See, I like that.
No, it's always right there though, but yeah.
All right, man. Also here, man, is the I mean, he ain't said, but rumor has it, and he walks around like the best media hooper of his generation. Also,
he said it.
I ain't scared to say it. All-time lead scorer. You don't know, Rick. You know how I'm coming.
Man, Will Guillory, man, full-time writer at The Athletic, man. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Appreciate y'all for having me on. Appreciate y'all for allowing me to share the stage with my guy Rod, man. I gotta give my guy his flowers. Not too many people know this. Ain't no Will Guillory without Rod Walker. I want to make that clear. Back in the G, I used to be blowing Rod phone up, trying to get me some high school spots, trying to get me some freelance spots in the newspaper, and Rod held me down through it all, man. So I got to get that man his flowers while I can.
I appreciate it, man. He only wanted to cover one high school though, but we
you know I got to cover them Satyrs. I wanted to be the Crusader beat writer, but they ain't had that position at the Advocate, so I had to settle.
Hey man, like, look, we support what it means to pass the touch, man, pass it towards being able to help the next person, pull the next person up and inspire in one way or another, man. So I mean, I don't think, and at some point, we'll talk about it, but I think throughout my journey, you guys have been either an inspiration or helpful in one way or another. So that's dope that you shared that, Will. And then we have the god of many talents, Lito. Lito, you joined here, man, and was a little bit upset about a UNO game. If you have just maybe about 1 minute, it really don't have to be that. Can you explain why you were so pissed off?
I mean, Will, my witness, man. Basically, I'm gonna tell y'all like this. I was hot. I was on. I wasn't missing. Will sitting right there. There's the other guy. The other guy, for whatever reason, bro, this man was running Klay Thompson screens to half court and was just shooting the ball, and nobody could guard him, and it was just game. But like it wasn't my fault. I was hot. I was on fire, bro. I got robbed.
Yeah, man, I was shook because I'm looking at the court. You know how you walk in the gym and you're like, all right, I see who's gonna be getting buckets, or who just kind of out there. I see my guy Lito on the court. I'm like, all right, I know my guy's a hooper. Yeah, I know my guy can get a bucket. And his partner, that was my first time meeting his partner. He don't necessarily look like he a bucket when you walk in the gym. No disrespect to him. Hey, but that man was a bucket on Saturday. Believe that. He got my respect. After that,
I'm gonna make sure he never hit us. Well, we not giving him no respect.
You know I gotta respect all shooters. I'm gonna hold it down for all my shooters out there. Shout out to all of y'all.
So speaking of respect, man, one of the topic of today is in the title, and we talked about it before we hit the record button here. Lito sent to my phone Monday a piece of the Jason Tatum and Taylor Rooks interview, which kind of got some got some attention, but it spiraled into other conversations about what it's always had in sports, but it's really a thing in the NBA of what a superstar is, what isn't a superstar. It's been a debate forever, but I thought it would be a good conversation to have, and I'm gonna get the opinion of the guys that we have here. But before we do that, for those that haven't seen it, let's take a look at it.
Is Kyrie Irving a superstar?
Yes, Kyrie is.
So, okay. Is Kyrie Irving a superstar?
This is awkward. Hold on.
Yes.
I think if you stopped it, you paused it.
Nah.
Is Kyrie Irving a superstar?
Thank God we live, cause I don't.
Yes, Kyrie is.
So, okay.
Do you want me to say what I think about you?
I agree.
Okay.
But then, is Damian Lillard a superstar?
I think that Damian has all of the superstar qualities, but it's hard to put him in this moment because of he just like needs a little more. But obviously, like he has that in him.
Needs a little more.
I mean, he's got to win. He's got to get there. Like that. To me, that's a.
Is Kyrie Irving a superstar?
Yes, Kyrie is.
So, okay.
Do you want me to say what I think about you?
I agree.
Okay.
But then,
not working. So,
I think we got the gist of it.
Yeah,
we went through.
Lito. So,
yeah,
you watched the video from start to finish.
I did.
Can you summarize exactly what it was so we can get into the actual?
Yeah, for sure. So the conversation was JT and Taylor Rooks, and they were talking about superstars. So JT said he asked if Kyrie was a superstar. Taylor said yes. So then she kind of wanted to tell whether or not she thought JT was a superstar, but then JT went to Kyrie. I mean, he went to Dame, right? So she said Dame had to do a little bit more to be a superstar, to be considered a superstar in her opinion. He asked what, and she said when, and that's where the clip cut off.
So, and that's interesting because I mean, and that pretty much leads into a large discussion. And I want to start with you, Rod, and then Will, you can kind of follow after that. Rod, to you, strictly in the NBA, what determines, like, what's your definition of an NBA superstar?
To me, you have to be one of those guys that's sort of always in that MVP, first, second team All NBA conversation. Sometimes I think wins, because she said he needs to win more. I think sometimes that gets a little. I think people sometimes put a little bit too much emphasis on it. I think it goes back to the Michael Jordan era. I mean, he went 6-0, and everybody just wants to like harp on, hey, you got to win. And to me, Dame's a superstar. is what I'm getting at. And yeah, I mean, and a lot of times guys probably getting penalized because they're on, franchises that aren't putting the right pieces around them, and all that just sort of factors into it. And some guys are on franchises where the GM is getting them the help they need, and some are not.
Okay, so what about you, Will? I mean, do you think that is it even an easy definition? I mean, why? I mean, it's we have the discussion every year, sometimes multiple years, based off of whether it's something recent or if it's something that if it's a kind of a past look. But what do you define as a superstar? What does it mean to you from the NBA perspective?
Yeah, for me, I think it comes down to three things. I think it's about your individual performance. Are you elite at your position? I think it does. Wins do matter. I think you can be as great as you want to be. If your team not in the playoffs, then it's hard for me to really call you a superstar. You got to be consistently doing it on that playoff stage. And I think also, especially in the NBA, it's about that intangible, that aura when you walk in the building. I think it's important when we talk about superstars. And that's why I think we try to kind of extend the list, where I think the list should be short. If anything, I think it should be less names than more names. And we want to put 10, 15, 20 dudes on a superstar list. Well, I think it's probably closer to like 5 or 7, because I think that's what separates the LeBrons, the Durants, the Kobes. We were talking about him earlier with those dudes. I think when you walk in the gym, it's like, whoa. Or when you come to the city, people want to go see you. I think that's what really makes you a superstar, along with your individual performance and the wins, of course.
Lito, what about you, man? Like, what do you think? What do you think makes a superstar, and what's so like? Why is this conversation like so interesting, right? Like, why is it like people have fierce debates over who's a superstar, and it doesn't matter what era that we're talking about. It consistently happens. You know, there's people have different definitions and so on and so forth. But like, you know, how big is this list? I mean, is it five? Is it 5 people? Is it 10 people? Do we include too many, or do we not include enough?
The thing about the list is it's all opinionated, right? It's kind of like, what do you consider a superstar? I to be honest, I really wish Jason would have let Taylor respond to whether or not she thought he was a superstar, because listening to how she broke it down between Dame and Kyrie, and you know, of course, Kyrie has a ring there, so you consider him a superstar. But bro, if Dame played with LeBron, he would also have a ring. So like, it really just depends on how you break it down, and it's gonna be a never-ending conversation. I mean, I was talking to Grub yesterday, and he told me, you know, it's about 5 superstars in the NBA, and you know, again, it just all depends on how you view it.
So, I mean, that leads to a Pelicans related question. Rod, when it comes to Brandon Ingram and Zion, I see the word superstar thrown out a lot when explaining anything about the two. I mean, whether it's talking about Zion's return to basketball, whether it's talking about how Brandon Ingram can build off of last year. But I see superstar people, whether they are doing it intentionally or not. When you look at Zion, when you look at Brandon, are either of them superstars? And if they aren't, you can pick one or you can pick both. What do they have to do to where it's not even a question? It's bona fide.
I think for both of those guys, it's just going to be a matter of, you know, stacking some years on top of each other. I mean, I don't think either one of them has done enough yet to actually be there. I think they both have superstar potential. I think they both will be superstars. I just don't think they've put enough on their resume just yet. If I had to pick one, I just think Zion. I mean, I think what we saw in that, you know, in that rookie season and some of that next season, I just think that that what he can do is different from anything we've seen before. So I think that sort of separates him. And plus he has the aura about him, and he's going to have the star appeal and just the things he can do. So I think he probably has a better shot of getting that title, but I think both of them definitely have superstar potential.
Yeah, I agree with Rod. I think both of those guys are short right now as far as the superstar scale goes. They got to just win a little bit more. They got to do it more consistently on the playoff stage. I think right now Z's probably ahead just because of what I talked about before, that third category, that aura, that status. When he walks in the building, you can feel Z. You can hear people responding to him when he does stuff, when he plays the game, the way he affects people. I think he's ahead of BI, and we know BI is a great basketball player, but you know, Z is just something we haven't seen before. He's just such a unique player, and his athleticism is just so different for a dude his size. But I do think it's an interesting conversation, especially when you talk about somebody like Kyrie, because I think that's a perfect name to bring up in this conversation because of what I brought up, kind of the aura, the way you make people feel. Because I think a argument that, you know, Rob probably had 100 times, I know I had it, is like the KG versus Tim Duncan. Because Duncan, you look at the skins on the wall, ain't too many people matching him. We talk about rings, we talk about playoff wins, big performances, big stages. Tim Duncan is up there, but he didn't make people feel the way KG did when they watched him play basketball. And I think it's hard to balance those two things. And I think, like Lito said, it just comes down to what you prefer. Do you prefer the way a guy walks in and everybody's intimidated by him, the way KG did, or you want a guy who just go walk in and win? And don't matter who you put on this team, he gonna win. And that's what we saw from Tim Duncan. So I think it's a hard conversation. I think it's different for everybody because I don't think no matter what Tim Duncan did, he wasn't gonna have the aura that KG had. And I think that's probably true when we talk about BI and Z. I don't think BI is gonna have that aura that Zion had when he came into the league. But it's about what you prefer and what you're looking for in your superstar.
Yep.
So Lito, I mean, should it be a switch and maybe or a change in how we term these things? Like, for example, you know, could you say, or you could say that the last time that Zion played, even if it wasn't a full season, right? 27 on, over 60% shooting. And even though we didn't have fans that year due to the damage in the pandemic, we saw the impact in, ticket sales. And we saw the way that, his opening night in his rookie year, how crazy that was. Will, you are traveling with this team, you get an idea, or you get a chance to see how interested and excited people are to see, like Stephen A. would use the term like box office often when talking about Zion. But Lito, should we say, like, last time I saw Zion, I think that was a superstar season, right? Like, but it doesn't necessarily make him a superstar. Would it be easier to say, all right, this guy had a superstar season, he has to do it again, and this has to happen for us to say, all right, we can just label him as a superstar?
I think that's fair. And with everything that Rod and Will said, I totally agree with also with, yes, he did have a superstar season, but yes, he has to have that longevity. He has to be able to stay healthy to produce those numbers. I definitely think he has a superstar. He definitely think he had a superstar season. If I got to take my BI cape off, you know what I'm saying? Zion is a superstar. He's on his way to being a superstar. He has that gravitational pull of a superstar. He like Will said, you walk in a building, everybody knows he's there. Like we eyes are on him, eyes are on this guy. He's been technically a superstar since 16, right? He's been YouTube famous. He's, everybody knows who Zion is. He's got one name, Zion. Like you really, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't fake that. I definitely think, like, and what Will said about KG and Tim, man, that's so valid. That's barbershop gym talk. I remember, hell, it was on the timeline a couple of weeks ago. Tim, whose era was it? Was it Kobe or was it Tim's? You know what I'm saying? Like it all depends on how you look at it.
Yeah. And I think personality plays a factor in that. You look at even a guy like Jason Tatum. He's kind of laid back and maybe doesn't have that swagger that some other guys have. He doesn't really talk a whole lot, and that's how Tim Duncan was. I think he'd probably get penalized a little bit for that as far as his superstardom.
But is that fair, Rod? From your perspective, do you think that if we're talking what a superstar is, and so much of it, a lot of the nitpicking, I think, comes down to what you do right on the field or on the floor, right? Is it fair to include how how quote unquote box office you are? Maybe you're not. Is it Brandon's fault that maybe he's not gonna attract the same kind of, or he doesn't want the same kind of attention that, say, Zion has been getting since he was a certain age, right? Is it fair, or should we judge these athletes based off of what they're doing and what they're putting together consistently on the floor, right? If Brandon puts together another year like last year, and that that's a good point, it's fame, but should we be looking at him different, or should he, or does it have to consistently be with the fact that, all right, well, it doesn't matter necessarily how dominant you are on the floor if nobody cares, if you're not selling shoes, if you don't have commercials? Is that fair to people like Brandon who just want to go out and hoop?
Yeah, I don't think it's fair. And I do think, winning transcends it all. If the Pelicans are winning, he can make a deep run. People will forget all about that. But I think that does sometimes give people an edge over some other people just because of the way their marketability.
That's fair. Lito, go ahead. You have it?
Go ahead.
Will, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think the superstar conversation, we get lost in it also because it's like, well, you can't win without a superstar. And I think, it's about what you prioritize. I think KG's no doubt a superstar, but he had one ring. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like just because you got a superstar, don't mean you're guaranteed to win. LeBron didn't even make the playoffs last year. He's no doubt a superstar. So I think it's about when we talk about superstars and just making that list, it's just about what you've accomplished, what you mean to the game, and how you compare to your peers. But just because you're not a superstar doesn't mean you can't lead a team to a championship. It doesn't mean you can't be the first or second best player on a team that makes a real impact. It's just about what you've done and the way people view you. I think that's what we talk about when we talk about superstars. And I think just because a guy doesn't make the list, that doesn't take away from who he is as a player or the impact he has on the game. It's just about how people view you. And for some people, like Tim Duncan, he don't care how anybody sees him. But I think it's just about really just how people view you more than anything else.
Lito, anything to add there?
Yeah, I gotta say, you asked if it was fair. I mean, life isn't fair, right? And with everything, there's levels. There's levels to superstardom also. Like everybody's game isn't created equal. So no, I mean it's not fair, but you know, I just think that just depending on, you know, how you like, this question is Jimmy Butler a superstar? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are we going? If we giving Taylor Rook's definition, hell no.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. It's just it's an opinion based. It's how you feel about it. I mean, it is fame, but it's fame, but it's also game related too. It's still game related because you got to put the ball in. You know what I'm saying? Like superstars play both sides of the court to me.
That's
wow.
Yeah.
You also said earlier that Dame's a superstar now. I ain't seen him playing too much on the other end. I don't know.
You gotta respond to that, Lee. You gotta defend yourself. Ironically,
you just was holding me down, and you don't know this was.
I'm just saying, I gotta hold you accountable, my brother. I gotta hold you accountable.
All right, you know what? That's fair. That's fair. I mean, man, the thing with Dame is, and this is okay. I'll just give my situation. I give my opinion on it. Dame, while he has not won a ring, right? Who besides CJ has Dame played with? And the fact that Dame consistently leads a team to the playoffs, almost to the finals, right? Where has Kyrie led a team? Where has a Kyrie-led team gone? That's all I got.
That's a fair point. I think that's a fair point for sure.
So that goes into like what your personal like definition is, right? I mean, I think it's a multitude of things, man, and there's no clear cut way to really answer it. But I am interested to see how it plays out, you know, with this year with the Pelicans having so much attention, it feels as if so many positive things going in their direction. Speaking of such, and Will, I'll start with you here. The schedule was released last week. And I mean, now, like, the first game was against Brooklyn. And before then, we were trying to figure out, we don't know exactly how Brooklyn will look. Will KD be there? Will Kyrie be there? What's up with Ben Simmons? But it feels as if from everything that's been put out in the story this morning about, you know, KD saying, or KD, I mean, not technically opting in, but him kind of withdrawing back the trade request, and we, barring health, he'll be there October 19th, I believe, in the Barclays Center. But from a schedule perspective, Will, you know, when you look at what this team just got done, you know, the season that they had, and all of the optimism and positivity that's coming into this year, how important is a fast start? Does it, you know, is it important that they get off to a start to where, you know, is it 6-5, 8-3, or, you know, or is it more so surviving? Like when you look at the schedule and some of the you know, the road trips and the strength of schedule, I would say, to start off that they have, which it feels like they have to go through every season. What do you think is most important? I mean, is it a fast start? Is it just kind of just rolling with the punches, or is it more so, regardless of the record, these guys getting used to playing, welcoming back in Zion, and you know, rotations, and players really getting used to finding that chemistry to see what kind of team, you know, we'll be looking at if they're able to stay on the floor together for, you know, 82 games.
I mean, first and foremost, when it comes to this franchise, the number one thing is you got to be healthy. I mean, you know, that's the number one thing. How many times have we seen this team go through the first 25 games of the season with their best 5 players healthy? It's not too often. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the number one thing. You gotta get your guys to the season healthy, and you gotta keep them healthy, and that's how you prevent yourself from getting in the hole that they've done, a million times. Those 0-8, 2-10, 3-16. You've seen it over and over again with this team, and a big part of it is, well, Zion isn't here, well, Drew isn't here, it's on and on. So I think it's about getting those guys to the season healthy, but I do think it's going to be a big test for them early because they got a lot of road games early, some tough road trips. They got to see some of them teams in the West that they're going to be fighting for playoff spots. So I think kind of showing you can stand up in those road situations, staying united, and figuring out roles. I think that's going to be a big point for them during the first 10, 20 games of the season is figuring out roles. Because I think they're one of the few teams who's walking into camp with damn near 15 guys who feel like they should be getting at least 10 minutes. Ain't too many guys going into camp this year feeling like, oh, I'm not playing this year. You know what I mean? So I think they got to figure that out first and foremost is like who's playing, who's not, what's the roles. And I think that's going to be sort of the adjustment period during the early part of the season. But I would say, number one, man, you got to be healthy because if you're not healthy, then you're digging yourself out of the hole like you always are.
Nah, that's a good point. It's always, I mean, like you mentioned, it's always the elephant in the room where, when it comes to the franchise, them just finding a way not to just being available, right? I mean, even if a role player, or such isn't available, I mean, at worst, get an opportunity to see what Zion, BI, and CJ look like. But if you can have everyone available, that would be great. It doesn't feel like it's happened enough in the 20 plus years this franchise has been in New Orleans. But speaking of such, Rod, man, I mean, it feels like, for once, everybody has nothing but good things to say about the Pelicans. A year ago, the organization was looked at totally different. The future of a lot of players was totally different. The outlook of the players currently, the outlook of some of the guys, Brandon, after the season that he had signed in an extension, the view of him around the league was different. A lot of people changed perceptions, and whether it happened mid-season, whether it happened in off-season, whether it took the full year. It feels like for once there's not many negativity surrounding the franchise. When's the last time that you can think of being a sports writer for this organization that you can see or that you've seen them in this position? So it's almost like they can't do anything wrong right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's uncharted territory for sure. I moved here in 2013. I've never seen this much optimism. I guess there was some that year after they, beat Portland in the first round, thought they were going to build on that. And but yeah, I mean, this is just, you look at the standings, and I mean, there's some teams that, you figure this team could, with Zion in the mix, that could be better than Utah. They'd be better than Dallas probably, So there's a chance for them to climb up from where they were in the standings this season. And I mean, there's no reason to think that you insert Zion in this lineup that they won't be better. Like, I mean, it's absurd to think that they won't be any better. And I just think what Willie Green did last year, the culture's changed. All these guys, they don't have any ego problems. Like, they don't have there are just a lot of things that seem to be working right. And this is a testament to what David Griffin is, what he's built here, the culture he's built and everything.
What's crazy, building off what Rod was saying, Lito, is that it feels as if, like, I think when trying to find things to talk about in this off season, and for the first time trying to dedicate weekly to have things to talk about, you find yourself at some point competing against yourself. And what I mean by that is, like, you run out of positive things to say. Now you already at some point are thinking about, well, what if this doesn't go right? Or what if then at some point you're bound to talk negative, and worry about some sore spots that you look at and you may see. And some of that is just being detailed and following every minute or every single move that the team makes and watching them play over the course of time here. But like, when you look at some of the people that view this team outside of New Orleans, or maybe don't have the same microscope that we have, the view seems to be different, right? While we may be concerned about what's going to happen with Devontae Graham or Jackson Hayes, Like I saw a tweet from Kevin O'Connor in The Ringer, and he said, I think yesterday, he mentioned that it's unbelievable to him the amount of talent that Zion's going to be walking back into. Do you what is that? How do you view that? Because we spent all last year fighting national media members that didn't know what they were talking about. Now it's kind of different. Everybody they have nothing but great things to say. This team can challenge, can maybe be a Western Conference Finals contender, and Zion has the chance to do this, and BI can be can be this guy. I mean, it's the narrative is, as AD would say, is not only is it changing, but it's changed.
Yeah. Chris, a great rapper from Holly Grove once said, tables don't turn, people just switch seats. And to be honest with you, I hate it. I don't want the national media to love us. I love being the underdog. I love when Perk gets on Twitter and he's like, move the team. Like, that's great. I want that same fire. I don't want anybody to feel like we've accomplished anything. You know what I'm saying? I want the fan base to be proud of the team for sure, but I don't want the players to just you can't come back into this season and think like, you know what I'm saying, everything is gravy. Nah, you still got to work hard. You got to bust your ass. You still have to have that mentality that you had in the second half of the season that got you here. But I do think, with the addition to CJ, Zion coming back, I think BI is quiet, but I feel like he got that dog in him. So you know what I'm saying? I feel like Jose Alvarado, Herb, you got a lot of quiet guys, man, who are who I think have this tenacity about them that I don't think we just gonna slip. I appreciate Kevin O'Connor saying that, and we do have talent. I'm really curious. I guess or we gotta just wait and see how it goes. I'm curious about the rotations and other things like that. With the KD fiasco being over, I kind of want to see how a lot of teams are going to show up the roster, including us. I mean, is anything going to happen at this point? So, while I appreciate the love from the national media, I don't need it.
I think that's what makes New Orleans. Oh, go ahead, Will.
No, I was just going to ask quick if Chris could give us an update since Lito brought his name up on Perk. Did he give what he was supposed to in the words of Riley Freeman? Did he pay what he owed? Do we got an update on what Perk is at after his misgivings last year?
Hell no, but I'm a figure out. I'm totally fine with being the bill collector. I mean, I'll find a way to, give him one of them spam calls, man, and and figure out what's going on. You know what I'm saying? But no, it has not happened yet. Right. You were good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say what Lito was saying about people in New Orleans. They have that chip on their shoulder. I think that's what makes the sports teams here what they are, because they sort of like having that underdog mentality, that us against the world. And I don't think the Pelicans are going to. I think they're going to make sure they keep that mentality, and that's what makes them who they are. And I'll say the same thing for the Saints too. I mean, I know it's the Pelicans broadcast, but I mean the same mentality they have too. Like, yeah, nobody believes in us, and that's just kind of what this city thrives on, I think.
And if they don't have that mentality, I'm gonna tell you that the one person who makes sure they will is Willie Green. And Rod was around him last year, man. Ain't too many people I've ever met in my life quite like Willie Green, and the way he impacts people, the way when he speaks, everybody in the room listen. You respect every word that comes out of his mouth, and I think, we talked about it so much last year, but I still think it was undersold. Just the impact he had, coming off of that COVID season with Stan Van Gundy, and just how nasty stuff was coming off of that year, and the way he could just shifted everything. Even after the 3-16 start, Zion not being there, BI being hurt early in the season, they didn't know what to do with the rotations. They couldn't find two quality guards to put on the court at any point. And Willie was the guy that was that North Star for the team, and I think he's going to continue to have to be that person this year, because I think y'all exactly right. The big difference this season is not the feel-good Pels anymore. It's the Pels with expectations now. It's the Pels lose 3 in a row, is going to be sirens going off, rather than kind of just crickets the way it was a lot of times last year when Zion was gone. So I think that's going to be something they got to deal with. But I think when you got a Willie Green in place, I think that's a game changer for this team. just because that dude demands so much respect in the building and everybody listens to him. And he's got the experience being there. He was there with Phoenix. He was there with Golden State. So he knows what it looks like. It's just about getting these guys on the same page and just figuring out what it's going to take for them to get to that level.
Chris, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to ask Rod and Will a question. As a person who's never been around Willie Green, I hear, numerous people who have been around him say exactly what Will just said about how, everybody listens to him. He's just got this spirit about him. What is it about Willie that makes people buy in? What is it about Will that makes people listen to him?
I think it's his the fact that he played the game, first of all, but I mean I guess he just turned 41. So I mean he just knows how to relate to players really well. And I think they just bought in right away. Like they saw it, and like Will said, I mean, when this team got off that awful start, yeah, they easily could have fallen apart, but he wasn't having it. And I mean, we saw the speech when they I guess that was in the Clippers game, I guess, when this team had a chance to lose and he didn't let them. I mean, that's just kind of who he is.
Yeah.
And I would say on top of everything Rod said, I think a big thing for him early last season was the fact that he really took the time out to have one-on-one convos with damn near all of those dudes. And I think, early in the season, I remember Devontae losing his spot in the starting lineup and Willie saying, I went to Devontae's house and we talked about it. Willie talked about, all the times him and B.I. had one-on-ones. Hey, how do we need to run the offense? What kind of voice do you want to have in the locker room? How do we need to work together? I think he, just like Ross said, he understands how to relate to people, whether it's the young dudes, the old dudes, the foreign players. He just understands how to talk to people. And I think he takes the time out to really have those individual relationships with everybody on his team. It's not just about just do what Willie says. It's about I'm listening to y'all as well. I want to have y'all input, and I want to know where y'all are coming from. And I think when guys understand that a coach cares, I think it goes so far, because I think a lot of these guys come up feeling like coaches don't really care about them or trying to worry about their own come up. And I think when they finding a coach like Willie Green, I think a lot of guys look at that and say, that's the type of dude I want to play for. He understands where I'm coming from. He's been in my shoes before. And he can't. He's not just going to be like, well, Devontae is having a bad couple months. I don't care what he thinks anymore. I think he really wants to listen to all his players and have their impact on his view and not just be like, all right, it's my way or the highway.
And players know when it's real or not. They know if somebody's like being true to who they are. And I think with Willie, that's who he really is. And so it's easy to buy in when you know that it really is.
I mean, look, I'm very interested in like the people that a lot of the players that were under Greg Popovich and like in the glory years. I listen to a lot of, things in which, or how they speak of him. And one of the things that I've heard Manu say it, I've heard Tony say it, Tim, Kawhi didn't say anything. So I didn't hear him say it. And of course, they had a sour ending there. But they all said that one of the things about great coaches and what was very important with Pop, or their relation with Pop, is that when you have a coach or when you have a leader like that in front of you, on top of having really good talent, it can make average players good and it can make good players great. Right. So what I'm curious about through what you guys mentioned about Willie and the conversation we had earlier about superstar, and we'll close out, and the talent that's on this team, the excitement that's in there. If you had to pick someone and you couldn't say B.I. and Zion, and you say, all right, it could be, let's say it could even be a 2-year window, and you had to say, all right, this guy could be a superstar. Who would it be? And it doesn't have to just be a young dude, because I think, CJ, there's a chance that maybe CJ McCollum having an opportunity to be in as a somewhat of a third option and a part of maybe the most talented team I think that he's been a part. It may take his game to a new level, or a game in which we haven't seen so far from him. But whoever it is, Lito, I'll start with you. If it's not Zion, it's not B.I. You had to pick one guy who could be a superstar. Who would it be?
Trey.
Okay.
I think Trey has the build. He has the build. He has the most important skill in shooting. He's athletic. I've been watching him this summer. He's been working on, dribbling and handling the ball and, just different defensive type sets against him. He's been doing like some dribble pull up fadeaway side steps. I think if Trey can put it all together, man, I you know what I'm saying? Like he's 6'9" and he I don't even think Trey know what he's doing yet. And that's not a diss to Trey. I'm just saying that he's that good that I can see that potential in him that, you know what I'm saying? If he blossomed to be a superstar, I wouldn't be mad at that.
I could hear Trey in my head saying 6'10". He's 6'10" now. Don't call him 6'9". He's very sensitive about that 6'10". You gotta give him that 6'10" number.
My bad.
But I think for me, like I said, I think I'm very hesitant to hand out that superstar title, just because I think that list needs to be shorter than longer for me. But I think just to answer your question, the guy that I'm looking to that really needs to take that next step, I would look at Herb Jones, and I would think I think in a perfect world they would love for him to become like the Draymond Green to Zion and B.I. being like that Stephen Clay figure, where it's like he's the guy that kind of balances them out in a lot of ways. He brings that defensive mindset, that unselfish mindset. I don't think Herb ain't screaming on nobody on the sidelines. I guarantee you Herb ain't starting a podcast no time soon. But I think just being that guy who establishes that culture, that mindset, that this is how we gonna play. This is the unselfishness he's bringing in every day. It don't matter who the role players are. We have a certain style of play. I think if Herb could be that third guy next to Z and B.I., I think that's going to be huge for them moving forward just because he brings so many different things to the game. And he's such an elite defender. So if he can continue to build on that and add a couple more things offensively, I think you can definitely make an argument for him being the third best player on this team moving forward.
Yeah, I was going to say Herb as well, but I'll mix it up a little bit and just throw another name out there just because I think Jose's a guy that's going – I don't know if he'll ever be, a starter, but I mean, I think he's a guy that can always come off the bench and be I think he has a niche that could really like just make him and when I don't want to say superstar, but I think he can be a guy that people around the league just really, really respect for what he does, bringing off the bench, like a Lou Williams or one of those kind of guys that just comes out and just brings that energy. Patrick Beverly, one of those kind of guys. But yeah, Herb would have been my answer, but I was just trying to switch it up so we could have three different people for this question.
Well, one of the shout out to Chaz.
I'm not taking a shot at CJ. Love all the podcasts out there. I'm not taking a shot at nobody. I'm just saying Herb ain't talking to nobody if he don't have to. That's what I'm saying. Herb ain't that guy. That's why I'm saying he got no pod.
That wasn't even why I was going. I was about to ask about Jackson Hayes. I was gonna ask about Jackson because that was the previous thing that he put up, right? We're talking about a guy that I think a lot of fans have kind of. Well, I don't think it's fair to say a lot of fans have soured on him, but I'd say there are more that are kind of down on his stock as an immediate help going forward than those that are optimistic about his future in New Orleans. But if we're talking about athletic gifts, athletic tools, if we're talking about someone that when you watch him, from highlights and so on and so forth, he grabs people's attention. He'll make you stand up if he puts together some of the small things. I mean, is there an argument there for a guy like him?
Yeah, I think the unfortunate thing for Jackson is just kind of like a numbers game, right? When you just look at the guys on the team, you look at the rotation, when you map it out, Willie Green's going to play about 9 or 10 guys. I think Jackson's kind of the guy that's looking more likely to be the odd man out. I think we'll see how it goes. We've seen him make, gradual steps throughout his career. Maybe he makes another jump and changes the math. But I think with his current contract situation, the way the roster is built, the way they're probably going to use Zion, I think it's just hard to see where he fits moving forward. But I've said this all the time about Jackson. I feel like he still has so much growing to do, even after 3-4 years in the league. I still feel like he's going to be a much different player a couple years from now than what we've seen, just because we forget he got to the game so late, right? I mean, he wasn't even getting recruited to be a basketball player until in this summer going into his senior year of high school. So like he's still learning who he is as a basketball player, how he fits, how to build his body up. And I think I just seen Jackson do so much stuff on the basketball court that's just like outrageous. Just like there's no way somebody your size is supposed to be doing this stuff with such ease. And I think somebody I think about a lot with Jackson is kind of JaVale McGee. And I think that might be a rough comparison for Jackson. And I'm not trying to do that to him, but I think with JaVale, we saw all that potential in him with the Wizards, and he kind of became the joke, the cinnamon challenge dude, the jug life dude. But you saw as he grew and matured and learned himself, he became a better player during the second half of his career than maybe the first half when he was more athletic, a better runner. I think like last year with Phoenix, he made a real impact on that team because he knew exactly who he was and knew how to fit with that team. And I can see Jackson being that guy down the line, but I just think he's so young right now. He's still figuring it out, and he's in a situation where he's not going to get 30 minutes to figure it out. They just don't have those minutes to spare. There's too much talent on this team. So I just think that's a long process to go for him. But I still think Jackson has a bright future in this league just because of what he can do from an athletic standpoint. And I think he is starting to figure out who he is as a player.
Yeah, pretty much what Will said. I mean, for Jackson, it's just going to be a matter of having that mindset of being a little bit more patient this year than he was last year. I mean, we didn't even mention Larry Nance, but I mean, obviously he's going to get some of those minutes. And so, yes, for Jackson, it's just going to be a matter of being willing to put that time in.
I agree with that. I mean, the thing with Jackson is Will said he started basketball late, right? And for him to get drafted into a franchise where we kind of needed him to play immediately to now, like, we're kind of loaded and we don't have the time for him to grow. You know what I'm saying? And I think the thing with Jackson, he's so talented, man. I mean, he probably runs like a 4.3 and a 40. He got like a 40 whatever inch vert. You know what I'm saying? I think by the time he matures, maybe his 7th, 8th year in the league, you know, who knows? I think he's gonna be a good basketball player, but it just doesn't fit our timeline at this point.
And Will, it's like an inside joke, but yeah, well, Jackson's only 19 years old, right? So Alvin Gentry used to always, you can tell the story, Will.
Because during the rookie year where it was Jackson, Nikhil, and Zion were all rookies, Jackson and Zion were obviously 19-year-olds, but Nikhil played a couple years at Virginia Tech before he came in the league. So he came in as like a 21-year-old rookie. So whenever Gentry would talk about the rookies, he'd be like, "Oh, guys, you got to remember they're 19, guys. They're 19. We can't judge them." So when he would talk about Nikhil, he'd be like, guys, he's 19, guys. Like, no, he's actually 21, coach. He's actually 21. So that was our running joke with Gentry. One of many running jokes with Gentry. I wish we could talk more about some of our inside jokes with Gentry, but we can't do that while we live. We got to take that off camera.
So I've heard. I might take you up on that and ask you a few of those when we get out of here. But yeah, man, I'm gonna let you guys go, man. And we'll move forward. I definitely appreciate you guys coming on, man. If you everybody who pulled up to the live show, subscribe, you know, check out everything that Will has going on with the Athletic, as well as what Rod is doing with the Times-Picayune. I know, and Advocate, I know he's tied up right now with everything that's going on with Saints training camp and football season about to start, but I appreciate you pulling up, brother. And then my dog Lito, Godcast, Lito Rants, pretty much on wherever someone's recording, you pull up, huh?
Man, I'm trying to work, man. If you work and holler at me, I'm trying to work. But I'd like to say, man, I'm a huge fan of Rod and Will's work. So you know what I'm saying? It's a pleasure being here doing this as well as you, Chris.
Nah, man, shout out to y'all for what y'all doing in the content game, man. Shout out to y'all for sure.
Appreciate it, brothers. All right, man. We'll close out, man. If y'all got anything, man, comment, man, share. And we will see you guys next time. We were in space. Now we out.
Peace.